Hi everyone. Let me explain the principles and techniques relating to legislative drafting. You people might have studied that drafting and pleading in your LLB. Whatever the principles applicable for drafting and pleading, to some extent they are applicable here also, but it is not completely legal drafting. Legislative drafting or lawmaking process is quite different, or some of the comprehensive principles and techniques they are to be followed in case of legislative drafting. In fact, as I mentioned in your previous class, that legislative drafting it is a kind of art. It is not the science, so that requires the skills and intellectual ability of the draftsman. It is generally accepted a rule that legislative drafting must follow certain accepted norms. Accordingly, that legislation that is to be drafted. Therefore, the legislative drafting is a skill acquired by a drafter through years of experience, and it is a kind of painstaking labor and work. Uh, Accordingly, what are the normal principles and techniques to be followed by a drafter? So that we have to look into here. I will be explaining all these basic techniques and principles relating to legislative drafting under following headings. The first one would be certain general standards relating to drafting of the legislation. The second one that is relating to the style to be followed while drafting legislation. The third one would be a legislative sentence. The drafter should be very meticulous about the sentences and all. So, legislative sentence would be the third one. The fourth one relating to simplicity of the language. The fifth one would be overdrafting. The last one that is vagueness. I will be explaining the basic principles and techniques of legislative drafting under these headings. I am referring uh, that book, the famous book written by B.R. Atre. The book name is, in fact, he was uh, an advocate of Supreme Court of India. Is served for legislative council as joint secretary. So he worked for Ministry of Law and Justice and Company Affairs for a considerable period. Out of his experience and out of the vast knowledge, he has written book named Legislative Drafting Principles and Techniques. That is the book which I am referring so as to explain the basic principles and techniques relating to legislative drafting. Uh, let us, it is quite a very difficult to explain all the principles. I will be summing up, I will be briefly explaining these five things under as contemplated by this author. So, the general things, it is very easy for you people to understand that if you are unable to get this book, I will only send the photostat copy of that book so that you could refer the various pages, or you could comprehensively understand the various techniques and principles relating to legislative drafting. Let me start with that first heading, that is some general techniques. So the so as to explain the general techniques, these are the things explained by this scholar under general techniques. As these are all the general things to be uh, what is that kept in mind by the drafter or lawmaker, uh, that is to be necessarily kept in mind while taking that particular the drafting process. So which are those general things as contemplated by this author? As I said, there are six things contemplated by this author. So the general thing consists of following things. The first one would be he must be familiar with must acquire thorough knowledge of constitutional law of the country. So every legislation that is to be tested in the context of constitution. So accordingly, uh, the fundamental or general principle is that they should be familiar with the constitutional law. So normally the officers working for a legislative department, so they would be persons from legal fraternity. So they will be familiar with the basic law of the nation, that is constitution. Then in addition to knowledge about constitutional law, they should be familiar with the statute book. Statute book is the book wherein all these legislations they have been stipulated or contemplated in that book. So they should be familiar with all those statute book. Much importantly, they must be well versed with in the precedent with reference to anatomy of financial, corporate, or socio-economic legislations. So they should be familiar with the crucial or the critical aspects of financial, corporate, and or socio-economic legislations, because the social engineering process that is to be taken care by the lawmaker. So accordingly, they should be familiar with all these things. The fourth one would be they should be familiar with interpretation of law. Uh, you know, like because of the creativity of the judiciary, the words might be interpreted in a unique manner. So they should be familiar with what are the general principles relating to interpretation of law. They should be familiar with the General Classes Act. They should be familiar with certain provisions relating to interpretation, so that they could avoid conflict between the intended legislation. The fifth one would be should give meticulous attention to details and a clear systematic approach to the problem at hand. Uh, they should be meticulous about, they should be so attentive, they should be meticulous about the details and clear approach towards intended legislation. The sixth one would be must acquire an analytical mind, which is very much essential to good drafting. Analytical thinking. So, that is to be analyzed with the existing laws, or in certain circumstances, that is to be analyzed with some other system. So, accordingly, they should be familiar with that analytical skill. Must always prepare to accept the criticisms with the tolerance and good humor, and must be ready to modify and improve the legislation to meet genuine criticism. There may be some constructive suggestions or criticisms or comments made by some stakeholders, maybe general public, or interested group or civil society organization. So under such circumstances, they should be in a position to accept, so the tolerance, good humor, without losing patience, without losing their temper. They should be uh, in a receptive sense, and accordingly they have to accept those things, and by weighing the things or suggestions given by the stakeholders, so that is to be incorporated in that legislation. uh, the last one in the general approach should undertake before drafting of legislation extensive research on the subject, and should understand the scope of the problems with which he has to deal with. So research, uh, that is the way, that is the what is that entrepreneurship of on the part of lawmaker, or the one who drafting that legislation. So after in-depth or in-detail research on that particular issue, they may come out with concrete suggestions or solution for intended subject matter. So accordingly they should be familiar with, like they should take up extensive research relating to that particular subject. The fortunate thing is, like our parliament fellowship, so every year they used to call for such fellowship. That intend to strengthen research on parliamentary affairs. In fact, all these research projects or research undertaken by researchers would be supplementary to the legislative department or the drafting process. Uh, After mentioning these eight grounds as general grounds or general things for that, uh, as like so as to explain the best practices or techniques of lawmaking process, he has supplemented two more things. These two more things under general uh, techniques, he has supplemented two more things. These two things, they are relating to judiciary. uh, you know Whether it is necessary for the lawmaker or drafter to familiar with a judicial decision, in which way the judicial decision will be influencing or affecting the lawmaking process, so that we have to look into here. There may be some ambiguities. The very judicial process that intend to interpret law, apply law, there would be settled principles or practices contemplated by judiciary while applying law, while interpreting law. So accordingly, looking into judiciary or the decision given by the judiciary would be the matter for the lawmakers. So he has emphasized the judicial role for these two reasons. The first reason, that is ambiguities revealed by judicial decisions on the analogous provisions, so that these ambiguities are removed while drafting the intended legislation. So there may be some ambiguity relating to particular word or phrase used by the parliamentarians, so that might be uh, that might have settled by the judiciary while deciding particular case. Under such circumstances, they should be familiar with that interpretation given by the court, so that they could avoid such kind of subsequent ambiguity in the legislation, so as to put an end to such kind of ambiguity, whatever the things required for that, so that can be done by the drafter. The second principle relating to the judiciary, uh, uh, like we are discussing that under general rules, settled interpretation of words and expressions used in the existing legislations by the courts, and follow them to minimize the litigation and improve the clarity of the legislation. So, if the particular principle settled by the court by virtue of interpretation, so that is to be looked into by the drafter accordingly, ultimately that is to be settled by the drafter by giving legislative status or statutory form to that particular interpretation. So these are all the general things contemplated by that author Atre, principle and techniques of lawmaking or legislative drafting process. Let me take up that second one, that is style. What should be the style of the lawmakers? Which are those general styles to be followed by the lawmakers? So, in fact, these are all the things relating to punctuation, some grammar, like rules relating to grammar that is to be followed by the drafter. So they should be familiar with uh, grammar and all. In fact, even a single comma, single full stop might be changing the very fate of the case. So, for that reason, there should not be any inconsistency, there should not be any uncertainty, there should be clarity, there should be coherence while drafting that particular legislation. This consistency, clarity, certainty, that is very much required for the reason that normally legislations will be like the very subject matter of the legislation would be different subject matter, different people. So under such circumstances, drafting bill keeping in view of all these subject matters, very like divergent subject matters and people for whom they are being drafted, so they should be familiar with the intricacies associated with such kind of legislations. Accordingly, the law that is to be drafted, as I said, all these he has contemplated around 22 things for this style. As I said, all these principles they are connected with grammar, they are connected with punctuation. It is very useful for you people to properly understand the style. We have seen all these things. We normally come across these things while reading particular legislation, but we have not meticulously followed. We have not that much carefully witnessed or assessed those things while reading, while go through that particular piece of legislation. Which are those principles contemplated by this author under the heading called style, uh, so as to bring clarity, uh, so as to make it that particular piece of legislation as simple as possible, as concise as possible. So for that we have to look into these rules. The first rule is that the language, like whatever the general grammar rules applicable for the general document that is applicable. So the first principle is relating to rules of grammar. So whatever the rules, general rules we follow for a particular document, so those rules they are to be meticulously followed. Much importantly, that should not be reflected in complex language. There should not be using of complex terminology in that particular legislation. Of course, there may be some complexity with subject matter, but it is duty on the part of the drafter to make it like to draft that legislation uh, as simple as possible, so that that would be easy for interpretation, that would be easy for adjudication. If any words, if any phrases borrowed from western or like for that matter foreign language, so that is to be used for a minimum extent, there should not be much scope for foreign language. Uh, the challenging task, while meticulously following that grammar rule, is the subject, if it is so technical in nature, so that would be very difficult for the lawmakers to understand the terms or to insert appropriate terms to the legislation. Under such circumstances, so the consultation with appropriate authorities or those who are familiar with that particular discipline, that would be useful for the legislature to uh, incorporate appropriate terms or phrases, or uh, so as to draft that according to general rules relating to grammar. They have to make it, they have to draft that legislation in such a way that so as to like that legislation should be understood by the layman, or general public should be in a position to understand that particular piece of legislation. So that is relating to style. The first point for style. The second point, that is the complexity of the subject matter, that should not be an excuse for legislation being complicated. Oh, it is connected with that previous one. Legislation, uh, as far as possible, the legislation that is to be legislated, that is to be drafted in a simple language or simple sense. So the subject matter, in certain circumstances, parliamentarians may enact a law saying that as it is so complicated subject matter, it is not that much easy to make it uh, what is that simple. That should not be the excuse for lawmakers. For that reason, it is duty on the part of the lawmaker to make it as early as simple as possible. So that is the second one. The third one would be, law should avoid any designation of the gender. So gender neutrality, that is quite important so far as legislations are concerned. So a statute may uh, speaks to both men and women. So that expression should be used by the lawmaker in such a way that it is confined only to particular gender. So the gender neutrality, to the extent possible, to be avoided by the lawmakers. The fourth one, that is punctuation, should be sober and not excessive. It must not include expressive signs such as exclamation marks. So, as I mentioned in that the very first principle, that marks and all, they are part of grammar rule. So merely because of that, there should not be such kind of exclamation marks and all in that legislation. So there should be that should be like an act is neutral, and the punctuation, that should be simple, that should be uh, uniform, that should be justified. So in such a way, legislation that is to be drafted. The fifth one, it must be remembered that the meaning of the provision is not dependent uh, solely on its punctuation. Punctuation, that is part of grammar rule. It is one of the part of the grammar rules. Punctuation, it is an essential element for the sentence. However, if the meaning of the provision can be changed simply by changing the punctuation, so the provision must be rewritten. So accordingly, that punctuation, the role of the punctuation, that is to be considered by the lawmakers. Uh, then the brackets, parentheses shall not be used as punctuation because they interrupt the flow of the sentence. So these things are normally used to add non-essential items of the information. So such kind of parentheses or brackets shall not be used by the lawmakers. So that is the sixth one for that style. The seventh one is that it is preferable for an actor to speak in the active voice. So instead of passive voice, so that should be an active voice. It is essential uh, for the reason that when a duty is imposed, our power is conferred, so it is very much required. So for that reason, to the extent possible, that explanation should be in active voice instead of passive voice. So like that should not be passive voice, using of passive voice and all, uh, that should not be practiced to the extent possible, that is to be mitigated. The eighth one would be an act speaks in the present sense. Uh, so always has law is prospectively applicable. So an act normally speaks in the present sense. So the future and the past are used only to express some temporary relationship between two events. So always a law that would be in its present sense. So that is eighth one. So law that is to be drafted in such a manner. The ninth one would be an act does not express desires or wishes or justifies. It orders, authorizes, prohibits, governs, or imposes penalties. So such kind of emotional things that should not be uh, reflected in that legislation. Normally, that legislation, that would be the order, that would be the authority. So in such a way that is to be, or that is to be drafted by the legislature. Then the tenth one, that would be relating to uh, uh, cogent expression of the idea. So when the different words are used by the lawmakers, so as to express the same idea, so there should be consistency in such words. So the words, for example, in one instance, they may use a license. So the same word that is to be used. So they may not go for a permit or authorization. So like that. So such things. There should not be variation for the pleasure or such kind of undesirable things. So there should be consistency. So the terminology of the piece of that legislation must not differ from the word used in that particular act. So that is 10th one. The 11th one, that is relating to the use of synonyms to convey a single concept, that should be avoided to the extent possible. Same word that is to be used. So synonymous that should not be used by the lawmaker. So that is 11th one. 12th one would be unnecessary structural parts that should not be uh, drafted. So these structural parts, uh, without any necessity, without any proper rationality for, so there should not be unnecessary structural parts in the legislation. The 13 that is relating to, so the economy of the words, uh, that is the important characteristic of that lawmaking process. So economy of words, so that is to be kept in mind while drafting legislation. The 14 that is relating to uh, the as far as possible, that enumeration should be avoided. That is to be avoided for these two reasons. The first reason is like uh, they will rarely be complete, and uh, no longer they will be they will rarely be complete, and the longer they are, the more the reader will be tempted to conclude that the items not included have deliberately been excluded. So the reader may come to the conclusion that certain things they have been excluded. So in order to solve this problem, so drafter will normally add general expression following shorter enumerations. For example, the enumeration referred here are series of nouns like cars, trucks, so other vehicles like that. So the 14th principle 14th that is relating to enumeration class. So uh, as much as like that is to be uh, included in such a way that there should not be any confusion in the uh, reader. The 15th that is relating to absolute precision in legislative drafting is not possible. We are not dealing with mathematics. It can be gauged not by pure equation, but rather by degree of approximation to reality. So reality often changes and cannot be frozen. So we can't provide absolute precision in the legislation. So normally, the reliable or the like approximation to reality that is to be given by the legislature while addressing particular issue. Then the 16th one that is relating to national like language. As I said, as uh, that is to be avoided by the uh, lawmakers. But if it is inevitable for them to take a foreign language, so that is to be integrated with national language, accordingly, that is to be taken care. So the country like India, where many states have different language, so the drafter may not familiar with particular language. So the drafter must not hesitate in using terminology or phrases commonly understood in the language of the state because of diversity of the language. So that is 16th one. The 17th that is relating to acronyms that are commonly used and familiar may be used in that act. There is no such kind of mandatory rule to use that acronyms or abbreviations, but if it is required, that is to be used. So the inclusion of acronyms often looks learned but reduces understanding. So such things that is to be taken care. Then 18th that is relating to references. So what should be the place for reference under legislative drafting? According to this rule, references should be avoided whenever possible, and as a rule, no reference should be made to the preceding or the following sections unless absolutely necessary. Accordingly, that references and all that should not just like as we are using for our articles and all, so that should not be followed. Uh, as an act is a document that changes and is designed to permit incorporations of the amendments that may be made subsequently. So such kind of things should be avoided. Then the 19th one uh, that is relating to the references to a provision. References to a particular provision are made by giving a complete description of it without adding of this act or of this section. So like using references in certain circumstances, uh, if that particular expression requires such kind of a reference, so that can be given. For example, in certain enactments there would be reference to that amendment or amendment act or amendment bill. So such kind of thing, if it is required for that particular piece of legislation, if it doesn't create uh, any such kind of confusion, so using reference it is permitted. The 20th, that is relating to dispensation or reservation in a particular piece of legislation, the such classes. So such class like notwithstanding or subjected to, so such kind of similar provisions to the extent possible to be avoided if it is required, if they are useful to guide the reader in searching for the meaning of the series of the provisions, so then they could go for that. So that is 20. The 21, that is complex words or terms should not be used where one or more simple words convey the same meaning. So the extensive list that has been given by the author for this, I will send this photo state copy. Kind of go through that. The last one, that is the redundant or inconsistent couplets should be avoided, and only one of the terms to convey the meaning directly should be used. So like with the examples that author has explained these couplets, so if once you go through these examples you'll be understanding that. So that is the second one. So just I am explaining the six headings of Atre. So far I explained that second one. The third one, that is relating to legislative sentence. So the you might have read that the sentences drafted by the literature, uh, it is quite totally different than the sentences in legislative drafting. So which are those general principles to be followed by the drafter in case of drafting legislation? So that we have to look into here. So the first rule relating to legislative sentence, that is relating to the way in which it is drafted so as to address legal subject and legal action. You know, the statutory expression should be drafted in such a way that there should not be any variation in the sentences. So the statutory objective, that is to be clearly mentioned, and the nexus between subject and object, that is to be meticulously drafted by the drafter. So for that reason, that legislative sentence would be matter for lawmakers. The first rule relating to legislative sentence, as B.R. Atre explained, legal rule. So the things relating to legislative sentence can be understood under these things. Particularly, we come across two important rules relating to legislative sentence. The one is legal rule. The second one is limitation rule. Legislative sentences would be assessed on the basis of these two rules, that is legal rule and limitation rule. So what is that legal rule, and in which way it is connected with the sentences? So that legal rule, that is the rule relating to the way in which that legal subject and a legal action, so that has been explained by the drafter. So legal subject identifies the person are required or permitted to do something or prohibited from doing something under a particular law, that is legal subject. So normally that legal rule addressing legal subject concentrate on legal duties, liabilities, rights, privileges or powers of a particular person, and the legal sentences should be drafted in the personal form. So for that reason, the language used by the the legislative sentence used by the drafter should be take care of these things, uh, or else that would be illogical. So for that reason, that last subject that is to be meticulously taken care by the drafter in sentences. uh, Even in that legal rule only, he has explained that legal rule under two headings, that is legal subject and legal action. So that legal action that is relating to legal subject, so the way in which that legal subject act, so that indicate legal action indicates such kind of things. So if the particular rule of law, rule describing the particular act, or it may be permitted or required or limited or prohibited, so there should be nexus between legal action and legal subject. So in such a way that is to be drafted. After understanding that legal rule, we have to understand limitation. So limitation or exception that is to be uh, carefully drafted, that is to be drafted in such a way that there should be nexus between legal action subject and uh, that exception. For example, the sentence is like this: the director may restrict operation of a licensee in an emergency when he has been sentenced, in an emergency, that is the first ground, when he has been sentenced, when he has been adjudicated as bankrupts. So under these circumstances, the director may restrict operation of licensee. So let us presume that that the sentence is drafted in a particular legislation. So here the director would be the subject, the restricting operation of licensee would be the action, and cases that is an exception, limitation. So in an emergency, when he has been sentenced, when he has been adjudicated as bankrupt, so under such circumstances the director may restrict operation of licensee. So that is here the director subject, restricting operation of licensee, that is action, that limitation or exception. So that exceptions may be in terms of cases, it may be in terms of conditions, it may be in terms of exception. So the sentences are to be drafted in such a way that there should be nexus between legal subject, legal action and exception. So that is the another important technique or principle to be followed by the uh, lawmaker or drafter while drafting a bill. So the next one would be simplicity of the language. So language, whatever the subject matter it is, as uh, it is addressing the core aspects of the society. So legislation that is to be drafted in a simple language, that is to be drafted in such a way that the ordinary layman should be in a position to understand that. That should be precise, that should be concise, that should be direct. There should not be ambiguity, there should not be uncertainty in that language, simplicity of language. In which way that simplicity of the language or precise or concise or direct nature of language uh, can be utilized can be utilized by the drafter. So for that, Atre has contemplated these things. So the simplicity of language could be assessed on the basis of these things. The first thing is economy of the words. The second thing is directness. The third thing is familiarity of language. The fourth one is orderliness. So by looking into all these four things, we could assess simplicity of language, whether it is simple, whether it is complex. So that we could assess. So just I am explaining that fifth one, it seems, that simplicity of language. So the first component of that simplicity of language is economy of the word. So what is that economy of the words? Let us look into here. So in legislation, so like according to this rule, in legislation, the words used by the legislator or the drafter, that should be uh, for the for the particular purpose, that should not be merely a tedious imposition upon time and attention of the reader. So such kind of things may create that may be dangerous because that may result in indifferent interpretation of law. So for that reason, the words used by the drafter, there should be uh, economy. Economy in the sense should not be excessive use of that particular term. So that is to be used in a limited sense. For example, author has given example of section 7 and 8 of Indian Environment Protection Act 1986. So wherein section 7 says like no person carrying on any industry, operation or processes shall discharge or emit or permit to be discharged or emitted any environmental pollutant in excess of such standards as may be prescribed. So here, instead of using many words to explain industries, operation or processes, so the very umbrella terms they have been used by the lawmakers. So that indicates economy of the words. Anyway, economy of the words that is to be used. Then the familiarity of the directness. So uh, writing must be straight and uh, what is that direct nexus with the legal object and legal subject. So such language that is to be used normally, expression in active wise may result in such kind of directness. So that passive wise that may lead to lack of directness. So for that reason, that is to be avoided. So when that particular statute uh, impose provide power or impose duty, so that is to be uh, clearly mentioned, like the nexus between these two things, that is to be clearly mentioned by the lawmaker. The next one, that would be familiarity of the language. So the familiar words must be used or preferred to unfamiliar word. So the drafter may be familiar with many words that law because of vast knowledge about law or language, but whatever the words used by the drafter, that should be the language with which that layman familiar, that statute book familiar. So accordingly, that familiarity language would be the matter for drafting of the law. So that is the another principle of language. Then orderliness, that is the fourth principle of simplicity of language. So the order, like the draft bill would be the part of various component or various aspect. So that orderliness of uh, placing or putting those things, that would be the matter for the lawmaker. The author has explained around 33 rules relating to uh, that orderliness. So like the important things are like so as to make it simple, so as to make it concise. The things are to be placed by the drafter in a order, in a proper order. So the first rule is according to this author. I won't explain all these 33 rules. Just I will be uh, explaining the important uh, things amongst these grounds. So the first thing is the provision of an act must be arranged in a logical order. However, it must also be borne in mind, especially when drafting amendments to an existing act. So, while drafting amendment act, so that orderly rule to be given quite much importance. So normally that order of a particular act or bill would be like this. First, there would be title, then there would be preamble. If it is necessary, there would be preamble. Uh, then short title and commencement, provisions defining area of application, definition, then provision of act, beginning with those that state the general principles followed by the exception, implementing powers, penal provisions, consequential amendments, including repeals, transitional provisions, schedules. So these are the things to be orderly placed in a particular legislation. So that is the order. In addition to that, there are 33 principles relating to this orderliness. The another best rule to understand that orderliness is if the particular law consists a provision relating to uh, providing licenses or cancellation of licenses or uh, such kind of things. So the order would be like this. So the grant of the permission or the license would be the at first, or it is to be inserted before its cancellation. Similarly, the making of application before its review, so that is to be maintained. First application that is to be filed, then that review provision should be inserted. So instead of application provision, instead of that, inserting review provisions and inserting application provision in subsequent part, that would be uh, against orderly rule. Similarly, that like general, the principle is that the movement should be from general to the particular. So there should not be mentioning particular thing at first instance and general rule subsequent instance. So that uh, every legislation should be moved from the general rule to the particular rule. It must also be uh, taken care by the lawmakers in such a way that the movement should be from the law to the procedure. So first law that is to be explained, then procedure that is to be explained, then exception to the rule that is to be explained, then the permanent provision first to be explained, then the temporary provisions they are to be explained. So first normal things are to be explained, then exceptional rule that is to be explained. So in such a way, the orderly rule that is to be meticulously followed in case of legislation, even repeal, as I said. So those things they are clear in that orderliness of various part of the legislation. So you just take up these things. Then the next one would be overdrafting. So the fifth rule, that is overdrafting. According to this overdrafting rule, so it is closely connected with the simplicity of the language. You know, in certain circumstances, so as to make it so simple, the tendency of lawmakers is like they may go for unnecessary words, or because of that over zealous attempt, so that a precise or concise form may result in redundancy or verbosity. So under such circumstances, like that is to be taken care. As much as possible, the drafter or the one who writing law should be drafted that in such a way that there should not be any scope for overdrafting. Uh, that may result in some unintended loopholes or defects in that particular legislation. So for that reason, overdrafting that is to be avoided by the uh, by the drafter. Of course, author has given certain acts relating to that. So kindly refer to those things. The last principle that is relating to vagueness. So the very purpose of the legislation is to put an end to such kind of vagueness. The very purpose of the legislation is to make that particular legal subject or legal action clear, simple. So for that reason, be like while drafting that particular bill, so that vagueness that is to be avoided. So that vagueness may result in using certain unmeasurable words like fair, reasonable, proper, competent, substantial, adequate, normal. So like that, these words may result in uh, some kind of subjective interpretation of the provision. So for that reason, so as to put an end to such kind of subjective interpretation, so as to present that particular piece of legislation in its objective manner. So the law that is to be drafted in such a way that there should not be any scope for that vagueness. So that is another principle. So these are all the basic principles and techniques relating to drafting of the bill. So after this legislative drafting, like basic principles relating to legislative drafting, we have to look into the various stages of drafting of the bill. So let us discuss that in your subsequent class.